You can't be serious, man. You cannot be serious!
Welcome to You Cannot Be Serious, which is, this is the Christmas Eve edition of You Cannot Be Serious. Christmas Eve usually means the day before, but this is the week before, and in the house, in the auditorium here, is Ms. Stanley OAM, who I know as a friend, and has given me a hand with the equipment here. That's the only way I know her. And if I could just get that out there so her parents don't ring her up again. And Ivan, who's here from, he's back from the Middle East, he's back from the mines, he's...
Merry Christmas.
Can't say Christmas.
Well, now I'm glad you mentioned that. Just before we start, I can't let this... This is the man. Now, I just want to play this, and we'll touch on politics a little later if we think it's a good idea. I want to just play this. This is the man leading the free world in America. He's what's known as the Commander-in-Chief. That's what the President of the United States is always known, the Commander-in-Chief. He can decide if there's war or what to do or what... have a listen to this. This is the bloke running the United States...
The world, pretty much.
America.
Is we didn't have enough airports. Whoa.
You have to play it from the beginning.
You've got to play it from the beginning.
The same stable genius who said the biggest problem we had in the Revolutionary War is we didn't have enough airports. Whoa.
And now, I'm just going to do this properly. Stop. Just a minute. Just stop. Just a minute. Christ.
Working well now.
So this is the President of the United States talking about Jesus and the Revolutionary War. So Jesus, I think, was on the planet 2,023 years ago, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Isn't that how it works?
Yep.
So the President reckons that the Revolutionary War never got underway because there were no airports or they didn't have enough of them. And then he goes, whoa, what did I say? Now, I'll just do it again. I just want to replay you this. I'm sorry. See if I can get it right. Here we go. Just a minute.
The same stable genius who said the biggest problem we had in the Revolutionary War is we didn't have enough airports. Whoa.
He says, whoa, what did I say there? That's so. Hey? Yep, that makes us... So, doesn't that make us feel...
Now, was that just before the car crashed into his motorcade, or was that after?
No, let's hope...
Because he had no idea what was going on.
So that's the leader of the free world. Now,
but surely he's not pulling the strings. He's not making the decisions on the day today.
He is a cadaver. That is, do you know what a cadaver is?
That's a dog? Is it a dog?
No, a cadaver is a dead body, isn't it?
That's a cavoodle. A cadaver.
I think a cadaver
I didn't know it was a
dead
body.
Ivan.
Now, you just mentioned something before, and I said, we're not allowed to say Happy Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
The Stonington Council. These are the people that... I reckon we were instrumental in this. You Cannot Be Serious. I'm going to mention the things today. We're going to pull our dicks. I'm going to mention the things today that we've been on about that have changed since we mentioned them. We're giving ourselves a nice leg up here.
All right.
The Stonington Council, we said, how can that woman, that homeless woman, or allegedly homeless woman, can set up a small apartment in front of the latrines... in front of the latrines on Beaconsfield Parade and get food and hampers given to her and fresh laundry and pillows and fucking people...
Cigarettes.
And cigarettes. Took us best part of 2 years to get her off the main boulevard. Now, we don't want her to be out on the streets necessarily, but we do want her not to be on the main boulevard, pissy and all as it is. That's all we got going for us here in Melbourne, Australia, along with the bad weather. Wait till I get on to the Weather Bureau. And so we got rid of her. So the Stonington Council, who are probably, I don't know, they're probably made up of sophisticated insects. Or
crickets.
Crickets or insects or just.
Jeez.
So they say they don't say Happy Christmas now in Stonington. They say make merry.
Yes.
Make merry.
Yeah. Yep. Whenever have you said, when someone says Happy Christmas, Merry Christmas, you say make merry? Or
Who does? No,
Have
I
you
say
ever done
same
it?
to you.
No. Yeah.
Same to you. Happy Christmas. Make merry. I don't say make merry. We're not allowed to say make merry. Well, when I say the crickets who are on the Stonington Council have all sat around and thought, gee, this will be terrific. Let's pull our dicks and say, this is a good thing to do. Let's make merry, because there could be some people in the Stonington Council that don't recognise Christmas in this Judeo-Christian country we call Australia. And if you don't celebrate Christmas, that's good. Celebrate something else.
But they're trying to be inclusive, aren't they?
Yes.
That's
Yeah, but
where
we do celebrate other cultures or religions.
Yes.
You know, like
Yeah,
whether
we
it be Diwali Day, we all go
Yep.
Happy Diwali Day or Happy whatever it is.
Hanukkah.
Hanukkah, yeah.
We have a gay pride march every other month of the year.
Yep.
People
Yeah.
close off that we celebrate being gay. And I haven't been to a lot of them, but I tell you, if I get invited, I'll join in, wear some rainbow pants or something.
I reckon that's we should do a shout out to it so you can go in the Gay Pride March.
Oh, no. Oh, well, yeah, why not?
We will. Yeah, wouldn't that be a bloody sight to see?
You cannot be serious. Yeah,
We've just dobbed you in.
rainbow-coloured hats.
We might
They
get
might
a
be a big
float.
seller.
We might get a float. So I know we jump around a bit, but speaking of that, now listen to this. This is the world we're living in. Listen to this. Do you remember last week we spoke, you wouldn't remember this, Ivan,
No, I
about acronyms.
barely-
Do you know what an acronym is? We did
Yes,
say
yes. Now I've been studying this.
Yes.
An acronym
Is
is,
a
something that you can pronounce.
a pronounceable word.
Correct.
And someone got on the, what do we call this? Not the internet.
Google
The Google machine, or got
Siri.
hold of us, or what?
or ask Siri,
No, my Facebook or whatever it's called.
Instagram, Facebook,
Instagram.
social media.
And they said, you pride yourself as a smart ass or something like that about the English language. I said, I didn't reply. I'm just replying now. I said, I don't pride myself as being smart ass at all. If I'm wrong, I'll say I'm wrong. I used to say he bought a golf club to the meeting, and they say, Sheehan used to say, it's not bought, it's brought. You brought
I
a
think-
golf club to the meeting. I said, bought means you buy something.
Yes.
I said, right, I stand corrected there. Used to say that. So an acronym, I said, is only a pronounceable word. And the bloke said, no, it's not. It's the initials of any organisation. I said, it's got to be able to pronounce it. And he said, that's nonsense. That isn't nonsense, whoever's the cocksmack who got hold of me and said that. So I'm just giving you the cocksmacks over in, this is the FBI in America. Here we go. The Office of the Diversity and Inclusion Department of the FBI will now, as of immediately, they've added another letter to the acronym, they say, of LBGTQ plus. They've added the word,
Two
the
pluses?
letter, 2 plus. They've added the letter A. And if you look up what A means, it means, and I have no idea what an A is. L is for lesbian.
Yep. Oh, well, let's see if I can. Yep.
Bi, gay, LB, bi, gay, trans, queer, plus means you can call yourself an Eskimo and a polar bear all in the one thing if you like. So it's an LG, and then they've added
A.
A. You'll never guess what A is. You'd say arsehole. No, you'd say...
No, I wouldn't.
An A is an aromantic. An
Aromantic.
aromantic.
Smells nice.
That's it. Well, maybe. An aromantic.
Or it could be a lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, or questioning, intersex, and asexual, or alias, aromatic, or agender.
Oh, geez. Well, they should have added 5 A's. Got to 5 A's. So anyhow, the FBI, as of immediately, where have I written it down, will use the acronym the acronym, so they're wrong there. I'd be good if someone at someone at the FBI understood what an acronym is.
They should know, shouldn't they? Of all
so
people.
LBGTQ plus A is not an acronym. It's a whole lot of letters which mean what I just said. So they've added an A to it. And the only reason I bring it up is because an acronym is only a pronounceable word. Like
All right.
CHOGM.
Chogham.
CHOGM is
Qantas.
yes, all that. I'll tell you what CHOGM is later because we're going to interview someone who would... the Commonwealth Heads of Government... Commonwealth Heads of Government of Melbourne, I think.
All right, we've got to get this right before
Anyhow,
the person turns
that's
up.
a pronounceable word. So that was... So how did we get onto that? Oh, yes, Merry... Have a Happy Merry... No, what is it called?
Merry,
Make Merry.
Make merry.
Can't say
so
Happy Christmas.
if you've seen, I don't know if you've been out and about, on the bins, they've got the placards, Make Merry, and people have been crossing out the make and putting Xmas.
Fantastic. And Xmas, so that's acceptable, but you should write the whole thing Christmas. But if you haven't got enough room, Xmas is good enough.
All right.
We'll settle for Xmas.
The bins weren't big.
We'll settle for Xmas. Now, so that's the crickets at the Stonington Council. They've decided, oh, yes, let's make merry. Let's make merry what? Merry Hill with a big stick. And I saw, have a listen to this. It says on the boulevard where they've got rid of that woman who used to set up shop there, on the Beaconsfield Parade, it says, alcohol ban from November through to March. I think it said from November to March, alcohol ban.
Banned, right.
Ban,
Okay, that's going to work.
Which means, conversely, up until November and after March, you can get as pissed as you like. You can vomit into the streets. You can
Just
piss
wear a
on the
jacket.
beach. You can fucking belt people over the head with bottles. So they've got an alcohol ban just for the 4 months of Yuletide, which I thought is an extraordinary sign. Yeah,
I thought you were going to say there's a placard here saying if anyone's looking for this homeless person, she's now known in blah 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 street number whatever. Where has she gone?
What's that, Ivan?
Don't mind me.
Ivan, please. That seat there, we'll get onto that seat in a minute because we're giving a shout out shortly. That seat there, that was the former occupant of that seat was Don. Don, we can mention his name, Don Scott.
We're allowed to.
He was a very, very good member of the...
Incidentally, there is something you should
cannot
know
be
about
serious.
Don.
What?
Don's birthday today.
Well, that's all we do. We're going to do
Should
the
I say
shout.
that?
We were going to do the shout outs. I said we're going to mention him in a minute. So now you've mentioned it. So go on, give him a shout out.
Yep. Happy birthday, Don. What is he? 79.
You don't know how old he is, and
No,
you're
I
giving
don't
him a
know.
birthday. I don't think.
I just know it's
I
today.
don't think he's that old.
No, I know.
I think he's 76.
No, I think you might be right.
Oh, well, I don't. So anyhow, well done.
He's 75.
Well,
But he'd be 76
now.
today, yeah.
76.
Good on you.
Yeah.
No.
Happy birthday, Don.
Yeah, happy birthday, Don.
So I'm 2 years
Go
older.
on, say
than-
it.
What?
Go on, say it.
What?
Say happy birthday to Don.
No.
Susan, OAM.
Go on.
I
Come on.
sent him a text.
I said
today.
say happy
good.
birthday.
What to say?
Say
I
happy
sent him a
birthday.
text. What do you think the text said?
Where are you?
Tell me what the text
I'll tell you what the text said.
Oh,
Just preempting his eccentricity and his annoyance at anyone who dotes over him. I said, Happy Christmas, Don, today. And he will probably tell his mates, oh, Newman sent me a happy birthday. What's he carry on with all that shit for? And I will relay to the person who tells me that I didn't say happy birthday. I said happy Christmas.
Your week is pissed. Wish him a happy birthday.
Thank you, Princess Grace.
Come on.
This is Ms. Stanley, OAM.
Come on,
Say
be
that
a
again.
man. Wish him happy birthday. Come on.
Don,
Go.
Don, I hope when you climb and you tangle yourself from the doona and get out from the cave you're living in down wherever you are and you've touched the horses up, I'm wishing you a happy 76th birthday.
God, you've cleansed your soul.
Now, the other person that sometimes comes in here, who's come in the last 2 weeks, is Richard Wollstonecroft, the Muff Man. Muff Man, don't throw your head back like that. That's an acronym. Melbourne Underground Film Festival.
Does he want to be known as that? The Muff Man?
Well, he's the head of the Muff organisation. Your Muff man.
All right, okay. We'll see when he comes in,
Well,
possibly.
he's not in.
Well, he was going to text you.
So Dick from Muff, Dick the Muff man, we'll call him Dick the Muff man.
King Dick.
You couldn't make that up, could you? Dick the Muff man is not here, but he's been a good contributor, and so we're jumping around, but these are the things. If I don't mention them, I forget them. So the news, besides a news item about my son that said that his football career was put in jeopardy because of an injury. Beside that, the item that led the sports news on the station I listen to, Golden Days Radio,
Who?
95.7, who at 8 o'clock have to thank people for the studio they're broadcasting out of, the elders past and present. Why they do that, I don't know. But anyhow, that's very good. And they take the feed from 3AW. And 3AW's lead sport item was not... This is what it was. You would think I make most of these things up. It said, Richmond Star, and I can't remember his name, but because it was in the car and I just didn't quite...
Oh, right, okay.
The Richmond Star, whoever, said he believed the Richmond Football Club can return to play finals next year. He believes they can play finals next year. That was the lead sporting item.
Jeez, it must have been a slow day.
Could you believe it? That you'd ring up the Star from Richmond and say, what are you reading about next year? He said, oh, no, we'll be shit. He said, well, I don't know why we're going to be in the competition.
Yep.
He believes they can. Not that they will. He believes they can. How would that lead a news sport
It's pretty
item?
subjective, isn't it? It's like
That
it's
is
not
not
holding him to
subjective.
account if they don't make the finals.
Lazy people writing out crap.
Now, speaking of sport, I don't know if you saw it. I saw it. They're talking about Usman Khawaja. I don't know if we want to, if you're happy to touch on this subject, but
Ivan.
What?
I can't say if I'm happy to touch
All
on
right,
it if you don't mention what the subject is.
So-
Has he been caught having sex with a llama or anything, or a goat?
No.
Right, well, other
All
than
right.
that, go
All
ahead.
Right, I'll mention it. So on his shoes, he wrote
Shoes?
on his cricket shoes,
Yes.
and he was meant to have a protest before the head of the Perth game,
Yes.
before the test, and on his shoes was written "All Lives Matter."
Yes.
Now, just remember
Very
that all lives.
sensible, very sensible sentence.
Yeah. Oh, sure. He wants to do a protest. Okay.
What's the protest about? Black Lives Matter.
No. Israel and the
Yes.
Palestine.
Yeah.
So,
how would you get into trouble for that?
well, the Cricket Australia said you are not allowed to protest. We understand how you feel and things like
Is
that.
a protest?
Well, yes, he was going to write it on his shoes, and then
Hang on.
Yes.
I'm only being the devil's advocate because this, and you might think I do know what you're talking about, but I don't read the news. I only interested in the overseas news, really.
Yep.
I am interested in what goes on in Australia here, but I get told enough to make an opinion about things. But he said on his shoes, all lives matter, and the cricket board have said that's a political statement.
they did.
No,
And
that's not true. It's actually, the words were, all lives are equal and freedom is a human right.
All right, so that's
So
the full.
that's the wording.
And so,
Yep.
well done, Suze. So
Yep.
he couldn't fit that on his shoes unless he's size 20.
Could have had one side on one side, one writing on one side and one side on the
What
other.
happens if you only saw the wrong
Or
side
one on the right.
first? What happens if you saw the wrong side first?
You
Anyhow-
read backwards.
So anyhow,
But-
I take it. So
Yeah, yeah.
even,
So that's what he
even that
would like to do.
elongated statement, what's wrong with that?
Well, they said no, you can't protest.
But what's the protest?
The
Read it out again, Sue, please. No, this is how ridiculous the people who run sport and the government and institutions and the entertainment industry, this is where we're headed. You wait till I tell you a couple of other things in a minute. So read out what is wrong with saying that. There's a huge conflict going over in the Middle East that you've just come back from.
Yep.
When you're over there, we saw tracer rockets going over your head while you're in...
Yep. And
when you're in Mosul, not Mosul.
Mosul. Mosul. Jeez, where's
But
that?
the only thing is, you've
Alexandria.
always said that politics in sport shouldn't be. You should keep sport as sport. We go to watch sport, or we go see sport for sport, not for politics. So, isn't this a political statement or a reading? So,
It
is
is.
that different to what you've always been banging on about?
Yeah, no, fair enough. So,
But-
well, I'll take that point, Sue. If we're not going to allow sporting any comments at all, keep sport separate, I'll take your point. But is that what they said?
That
The
is
cricket board.
That's what they said, because there was even people in the crowd who unfurled a banner 5 metres long, and it said that pretty much the same thing. All lives matter, all lives are equal. So they wrapped up the banner and kicked the people out as well from the Optus Oval.
Now, we've been graced, just as we were saying, we're not sure where Dick the Muff Man is. Muff Man Dick is in.
Yes, sir.
And here he is, and...
All lives matter. I agree.
What's
wrong with that,
No,
Sam?
no, there's nothing wrong with that. But Sue makes a very good point, because I have said for many years that if we just keep politics and political statements and any statement out of sport, let people go to the sport, not be browbeaten by what the hierarchy tells us and what the players have on. Where does it start and end? So I'll take your point, Sue Stanley OAM.
That's a good point. Yeah.
That nothing shouldn't have anything that reflects anything at all about sport or political statements or what's on your mind or all that stuff. So
I have no problems with him doing it off the field, like
No.
on social media platforms or in a press conference or whatever. However, as what you've said, sport is sport. And
Yes.
if we start
Yeah.
breaking those rules,
And
then
we-
where does it end? You know,
we have been consistent with this, so it would be hypocritical to say that Mr.
Yes.
Kawaja can do that, because that's against what we said. Now, and you might notice, Dick, that when you did say, not you, but when people said Black Lives Matter and people said all lives matter,
Thank you.
you got
That's where
cancelled.
I want to go.
Cancelled and
Yep.
you got cancelled and suspended for saying all lives matter. Pete Buttigieg, that incompetent Secretary of Transport in the United States,
Mr.
the
Buttgig.
most incompetent and unworthy person ever to hold down a government job, Pete Buttigieg, who is nothing more than a marauding moron. He said at a political rally before he was inaugurated or made Transport Secretary by the cadaver, which is
not a dog.
which is a dead body. That's the
Right.
president. The cadaver made him the Secretary of Transport, and he said at a rally, he said, because they held Black Lives Matter pamphlets up, and he said, hey, all lives matter. Well, he was roundly condemned, was lucky to get his job until he did this fawning apology, pandering apology to say, oh, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said all lives matter, only Black Lives Matter, which is, can we just say it again, the Black Lives Matter organisation is a domestic terror organisation. They are anarchists and they are a disgrace. And you might notice that in Formula One, they started all that bullshit about praying and bending down on their knees and genuflecting before every race has said Black Lives Matter. They've dispensed with that because they've suddenly realised what we've been saying. Maybe they listen to this. We've been saying this for 4 years since they burnt America down after George Floyd was lost his life. They burnt the whole of America down because Black Lives Matter. It's a hoax. It's bogus.
It's
and
extraordinary,
the people
isn't it?
responsible for it should be not ashamed of themselves. They're just insects.
Remember
They're
how-
insects in government.
Remember how they carried on about January 6th? And I mean, the only person who died was actually a Trump supporter who went in to protest the...
Shot by a black guard.
Exactly, there you go. And Black Lives Matter kind of wreaked havoc all through the COVID pandemic. Killing... I remember there was footage of a shop owner being beaten to death by black protesters and all this footage. They kept that out of the media.
Well, we had protests here in the city of Melbourne.
Oh, yeah.
When you weren't allowed to have protests
And wasn't that
whatsoever.
crazy? That's when
But they were
that's
allowed
when
to
I
do
guess
that.
that
That was Dan Andrews again.
That was something weird going on with the pandemic when you couldn't protest any of the mandates, but you could protest Black Lives Matter. It was like one was legal, and then one was
just grey.
Exactly.
Do you think we've gone right wing here? Or
Right, dial this back a little bit.
I tell you why we do this, because if people like maybe us don't push back and give another side, the whole of the mainstream media are so biased in what they disseminate and put out there. We just give. You can't argue with whatever we've just said today about Australia Day. No, we haven't got on to Australia Day, about Christmas and the Kawaja. No one agree. She shouldn't have it on the shoes. No one should have anything on their shoes.
Do it
or
after,
jackets.
do it before. No worries.
If you don't put, and the acronym about we did just the acronym Dick. The FBI have added another letter to the LGBTQ plus A. They've put A in.
What's the A for?
Well, Sue will tell you.
Could I guess?
But it's official.
Hang on.
You can't.
Not for anus.
Well, I said,
Wow.
and Dick, they said the FBI, effective immediately, have now put on all their stationery and letterheads. They've added the word A, and they said it was an acronym, and I said it's not an acronym because it's unpronounceable. That's what an acronym is.
It's crazy, yeah.
So anyhow, if you think that that's left wing or right wing, that's just wrong. It's not wrong to add the A in. It's wrong to say it's an acronym, and that's just a petty thing. But that's what.
Have you noticed the way when you get emails from people now, they have their pronouns like he, him, or she, and it's like this is people you've known for years who are not transgender at all are suddenly putting he, him, or she, her. Or, it's like, hang on a minute, it's like, you know what I mean?
Well, when I was at work, I had to put my signature after the email, and the boss come in. Shout out to the boss. Came in and said to me, I asked him, I said, am I doing this as well? Am I going to be putting on my preferred pronouns and that? And he said, yes.
Really?
And yes.
Okay,
yes.
well, but look.
And he said, I'll tell you what you're going to put down.
No, look, honestly, we're evolving, and if that's, I wouldn't do it, but I mean, maybe you have to do it. But so listen to this. This is, we jump around a bit. This is a high school in America failed a student when he was asked true or false. Now you think most people, everyone who's come on here thinks that I make this stuff up. This is easily provable.
Searchable.
Where do you think I get this from? I get from the mainstream media and news feeds from America. They highlighted this. A high school failed a student. He had a true or false box to put, is it true or false?
Right.
He put true, that only men have penises, and he said true, that only women can get pregnant. And he was failed. They failed him on those two answers. Because...
No, it's so strange.
Because they will say trans men who go to be women, they're called women, and therefore women don't have penises. But the trans man obviously does have a penis, so he put true. Men are the only people. If you've got two X chromosomes, you're a woman, and the only people who can give birth are women.
Isn't
no
it
matter
strange?
what you call yourself, but he got failed. He got failed on those two answers. So you say we are transphobic, homophobic, sexual, whatever you xenophobic, you say we're like anything. How would you disagree? How would you possibly say that we are out of step with that?
Isn't it strange too that during the pandemic they were all trust the science at the same time they were pushing this transgender thing, which is, I mean, against science because there's biology basically and there's XY chromosomes, and like this is stuff that no matter what kind of operation one might have on oneself, you can't change your chromosomes, Sam.
No, thank you, Dick. No, you can't. You can't. And that I'm not calling it.
No, I understand. It's Richard, short for.
No, I said I'm.
Don't worry, you're lucky you don't have
I don't
a
misunderstand
nickname,
when I said you can't. I said I meaning you cannot. I wasn't referring to you.
Yes.
You can't. If people, we're very. You might say, "Oh, what a joke." We're very accepting, but please don't say to us, don't embarrass us and embarrass yourselves by saying that men can get pregnant. We understand where you're coming from, but please. Don't insult us by thinking we're stupid. So
They've just got to reword it, I reckon. Like basically,
yes.
because they're saying women can get pregnant, which obviously biologically that's different, but
women can get pregnant.
Women can get pregnant. I think that's proven.
Yeah, well,
luckily for all of us.
Science nowadays, there's many things you can do.
It's strange,
However,
isn't it?
I think it's really can they parent realistically, and that's where if you have two gay men and then they adopt a child, I know that they can't have it, but they still can be a parent. So it's just all about it's about wording.
That's, all right.
That's where you got to.
No one disagrees with that, Sue. Wait till I get on the two gay men having sex in the Capitol building. And it doesn't matter that they were gay and having sex. One man was getting fucked up the bottom.
Yes.
by another man on all fours in a very sanctimonious room where a lot of political hearings, and it doesn't matter that they were gay, but there was a man on his all fours being shafted by another man, and how do we know this? Because he videoed it and put it online on his friends only fucking website.
Only
friends, and it wouldn't matter if there was a woman in there being fucked up the bottom,
or anywhere for that matter.
Well, it doesn't. It's
Or
not the
language.
point. The point is, I'll just get onto that in a minute. In a minute. And people say, "Oh, well, you're mentioning it because there's two men doing it." I said, "I'm not mentioning that at all. I mean, no, it doesn't matter what they do. It doesn't matter who's doing it. In that particular room, they were just taking a piss out of the sanctity of the United States government and Congress. And if you don't think that's disrespectful, where are the standards?" So we jumped about a bit there.
That doesn't happen in the Australian Parliament, now does
No.
it? Only metaphorically.
Yeah.
Well, where did those two people the woman got $3.5 million settlement, where did they have sex?
Is it that Lehman?
Well,
Yeah, where was that? Is that in the
that was in the
government
back
house?
offices, I
was.
think.
That was on a couch.
No,
On the way to
that
a
was
back
in
office.
the minister's office.
He had a couch.
She had a couch. Yes,
She had a couch
Yep.
in the office.
They
that
do.
The minister's office.
Because the security guards were concerned there might
be a leak.
There might
Onto
have been a
the
leak
couch.
onto the couch, and the minister may turn up in a
Have to
few
get
hours'
the carpet
time.
cleaner under the couch if there's a leak.
That was the thing.
But
Get up the
it
Mr.
wasn't,
Sheehan.
not
wasn't
gonna-
as salacious. It wasn't as salacious. She wasn't in the bottom, was it, that they were doing it?
Well, I hope not.
But that doesn't
Oh,
matter.
that's
if they were.
debatable, isn't it, that it happened, this event?
It
All for the
doesn't matter
courts,
that they
isn't it?
were being fucked up the bottom. But
I like the fact that they thought, let's leave the pub and go back to the minister's office for a whiskey.
A little bit of, Johnny Walker.
Yeah. So who would
yeah,
think?
Jim,
Let's
Jack,
go back
or
to
Jo-
work to
Jim,
have a,
Jack, or
to have a
Johnny.
drink.
Go back for a Jim, Jack, or Johnny. You know what they are?
No.
Jim Beam, Jack Daniels, Johnny Walker.
There
Jim,
you go.
Jack, or Johnny.
There we go.
So when you go
The
into
Holy
a pub,
Trinity.
when you go into a pub, Ivan, and they say you could look as though you're a big brawny Aussie, you can say, "What would you like, Ive?" And you could say, "You want to?" You could say, "Have you got Jim, Jack, or Johnny?" And they'll say, "What's that mean?" You say, "I want a Jim Beam or a Jack Daniels or a Johnny Walker." Johnny Walker Black. A lot of people we know ring Johnny Walker Black. Ray Donovan drank. If you don't know Ray, doesn't go. Moving on. So we've jumped about a lot. Now, Dick, I don't know what we do occasionally here is
Yes, Sam.
we give shout-outs. I don't know if anyone has ever said to you that they've heard you on You Cannot Be Serious. We
have already,
that
yes.
many people. And the only reason I don't mention them, because if I haven't got a pad and a pen that I'm carrying with me, it is pointless reading out. No, but that's all right. You hold that up. If I'm out playing golf somewhere or driving in the car and someone pulls up at the lights, it's a bit hard. So the only reason I don't mention them out is because I can't write them down. And Don said one day, "I'd like to give a shout out to a girl I was watching play netball." And I said, "Yeah, what's her name?" He said, "I don't know. I was looking at her over the fence." I said, "What, you were looking at women playing netball over a fence, were you?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "What, just a little cyclone?" He said, "No, I climbed up and looked over at them." I said, "Don, you want to be careful of stuff like that." And he said, "No wonder she was terrific and got some good goals." And I said, "Well, you're giving her a shout out, eh?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "What's her name?" He said, "I don't know." I said, "Well, what's the point
How
of
would
doing
she
it
know?
if she can't not listening?" He said, "Well," then he said, "Fuck you." And I said, "Thank you, Don." And rude letter following. So anyhow, so unless we have many shout-outs that I can't mention, and if you have a shout-out,
Sure.
just write it down or remember it. So I was, wait for this, Susan, Stanley OAM. I was down at the Albert Park. It's called the Melbourne Golf Range now, very prestigious down. I was down there for a reason. And I watched a man, this will make no sense to anyone unless you're a golfer. I watched a man walk in there with a little thin golf bag. People who play golf will understand this. A very thin golf bag, which I reckon was probably 70 years old. It was just a little leather, and he had some sticks, wooden shafted sticks, hickory sticks.
Right.
And persimmon heads on the woods, that's wood persimmon heads. and he had about 4 or 5 of them sticking out, and he started hitting golf balls. And I said to him, I thought I'll take a chance here. I said, "What are you doing, mate?" And he said, I said, "Why are you using those?" Thinking, shit, surely if you got some modern equipment, your game would improve. He said, "Well, I'm playing in a hickory shafted golf tournament at Royal Melbourne. It's a competition. We do it every year.
Wow.
All those people who have been brought up on them and that." And I said, "Oh, that's fantastic." He said, "Here, have a hit with it." So I had a hit with a hickory. Was called a mashie.
A mashie, right?
And have a guess who the person was. This is why I'm giving a shout out. And I said, "You know, all the golfers in yesteryear used to use those, and you wouldn't believe it, but most of the golf scores are no better. They probably are, but not much better with using the proper golf clubs now." And he said, "Well, my father was very good at using them." And he said, I said, "Was he? Was he a professional golfer?" And he said, "It's extraordinary how you get to..." He said, "Yes." He said he won some golf tournaments. And he was very modest, this bloke.
Some
And
golf tournaments.
I said, "What golf tournaments?"
Yep.
Thinking maybe the Victorian Open or the local club championship. He said he won 5 British Opens. I said,
What?
"You're not Peter Thompson's son, are you?" He said, "I am. I'm Andrew Thompson." So there you are. Andrew Thompson was going to play. And I said, "I knew Peter Thompson pretty well, and I've interviewed him." And he said, "Yes, my father liked you." I said, "Gee, what?" And so he's going to play in a, I'm just telling golfers, a hickory competition down at Royal Melbourne. The great Andrew P. Thompson, he comes from, I've got his card, he gave me his card. He said, "Ring me up if you want to go around to Royal Melbourne." They wouldn't let me in the gates at Royal Melbourne, but I could smuggle myself in the back of his boot. He comes from the Fukuoka office. Isn't that where the tsunami...
Japanese.
No, Fukushima.
Fukushima, that is, yes.
Well, he's from Japan.
Oh. Well,
They love their golf there.
What does that word say? Hiroshima.
Hiroshima.
Is that...
yeah, well, that's a place, Hiroshima.
H, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, this is... I can't read
Do you want me to
that.
have a look?
Yeah.
You need glasses.
Anyhow, well...
No, he's got 20/20 vision, he says.
Yeah, right.
Itoshima City.
What is it?
Itoshima City.
Well, it's Ita.
Fukuoka Prefecture.
So Japan.
This is Japan, deep Japan.
So where did the tsunami block out the...
in Fukushima. In Fukushima.
Not the same place.
No, different. That's
Anyhow, he's from Japan. He's I don't know what he is. I can't read the rest of it. He's got more titles and letters after his name. None of them are LGBTQ plus A.
No, none.
But,
no pronouns there either, we should point out.
So I said, "Well, that is what a day." He said he listens. This is why I'm doing it. He said he listens to the podcast. He said, "I've got up to where Don..." I said, "Oh, you only haven't got up to where Don's not on?" He said, "No, what happened to Don?"
Well.
So I was very diplomatic. I said, "Don withdrew. He's decided this wasn't his go or whatever." So I was good. And I said, well, Andrew, I'm going to give you a shout out. So I'm giving a shout out to Andrew Thompson, the son of. He probably wouldn't like to be known as the son of, but he probably would be. Because he said, "My father won 5 British Opens." Mm-hmm. So there you are. That's a shout out, and you've done Don. And if you ever get these shout outs, Dick.
Sure, I'll give a shout out to Michael Gray Griffiths from Cafe Locked Out. That's a show.
Hang on, what did you say?
Michael Gray Griffith
from
a show called Cafe Locked Out, which is a sort of a freedom.
I thought he owned a cafe.
No, it was during the pandemic.
During lockdown.
When people got locked out of
PTSD.
cafes, due to the vaccine passport and stuff, he wouldn't participate in that, and he thought that was like an infringement upon human rights, and
so he wrote a show about it.
He started the kind of show, and he became like a major figure within the freedom movement, and he's a bit of a personality, and I know he listens to this show, so I just wanted to give him a shout out.
Good. Well, we've got a lot of stuff to do here, but what we should do is, because if we use all our power, we should come should keep some of our powder dry so that we got other things to talk about, or else we end from jumping from subject to subject.
So some people may think we talk about things before we hit the record button.
I got a feeling no one would think that. The way this is disjointed and no one has any idea. But
there's a grand plan.
When we started this with Mike Sheehan, and Don, we said, why don't we all get together and do this? And Mick Sheehan said, well, why don't we have a meeting on the day before, or have a communal thing on the phone? What do you call it? You know, you can
Group chat.
Group
chat or a Zoom meeting.
And I said, to do what, Mick? He said, well, discuss what we're going to speak about. I said, no, Mick. If you don't mind, this is my opinion. No, let's not rehearse anything. The best stuff is off the top of your head. If you have to rehearse things, this is... And I'm just telling you, I used to do this on the footy show. Oh, did you? Yeah, no, I did it for 25 years, and whether I was successful or shit-house at it doesn't matter. I'm only just saying I never used to go to the meetings. I used to take any notice of what was on. We used to do it on the day, live to air, and I used to do it off the top of my head, except for the tape stuff we did on Street Talk. And they said, oh, don't you want? I said, I don't. If you ask me a question or you want me to give a comment on something, I'll do it off the top of my head, and that got me in a lot of trouble. But that's the way.
But it was all live.
Spontaneity.
So we do nothing. We do nothing here. I can touch my heart or a Bible, or we allowed to use Bibles these days. Did you see the two people got sworn? Have a listen to this. Two people got sworn in as the governor of, I could look it up, you could look it up, the governor, two men who were married to one another. One was swearing the other in, and he didn't put his hand on the Bible. He put it on his hand of a group of books that had been banned in the school library that showed intimate pictures of men having sex. And I know you think I make this up. He swore on that book of banned, a stack of banned books.
Yeah.
So they didn't put their hand on the Bible, and it was just a protest saying, why have they banned the books of lurid pictures? Well, you might think they're lurid if you're a heterosexual, if you're a homosexual, or you're gay, you might think they're quite acceptable, but these were for kids. These were in the kids section of the library at school.
I don't know why
the parents had cranked up and they'd been banned and sued for interrupting the meeting. So... why did I say that?
I don't know why they want to teach it in schools. It's
how did
strange.
that come up?
I have no idea.
Oh, yeah.
Because someone was swearing on them instead of the Bible.
Off the top of your head, full of shit.
Spontaneity. That's the theme.
Thank you, Lady Chomley over here. Now, so we have a lot of things to speak about, and I did. Now you might think I know how this came up.
Yeah, right.
Because you said, do we make arrangements?
Oh no, do we plan?
Yes.
Do any pre-planning?
I will say this, which sounds absolutely contradictory, but Dick here.
Yes, sir.
What?
You mentioned my name. I said yes.
No, Dick did text me. Did text me about Taylor Swift, and he said, "Have you heard this?" And he has an extremely interesting thing to say about Taylor Swift, and I have I have a parallel thing which I think is going on. Makes no sense unless we explain it, and we're going to do it after the break. So, OAM and Ivan and Dick and old Coxmack here. That's it.